everyone. Welcome back to the AAS YouTube channel. And this is part of the good stuff. This is part of the great stuff. This is the AAS Journal Author Series. And I am delighted to have Bill Harris and Marta Reina-Campos with us today. Hello, Marta. Hello, Bill. And Marta, let's start with you. What's your geolocation? Where are you at?
I'm currently located at Toronto in Canada.
Well, we're past the equinox, coming up on solstice, and how is fall in Toronto? Or are we getting any snow yet? Where?
Oh no,
No.
not snow yet. The fall
Oh,
is
okay.
glorious. All the leaves have changed colors. We've got lots of yellow, lots of orange, lots of red. So it's definitely the best season of the year, I would say.
Beautiful, beautiful. I was in Bloomington, Indiana, just this last week doing a peer review workshop for folks, and all the trees were turning colors, and it was reds and yellows, and it was quite beautiful. It was very nice. And then, Bill, how about you? What's your geolocation?
So I'm just down the road an hour or so in Hamilton,
Yeah.
Canada, and just to the west of Toronto. And as Marta said, the fall colors here are terrific. You all should be here watching this. It's just, reds, oranges, greens, it's yellows. It's glorious time of year to be here. You can find leaf piles to jump into and everything if you want.
There you go. That's an invitation, people. Go ahead and go do it. So I'm in Phoenix, and we are definitely entering into our fall mode. Unfortunately, we have just one color, green and brown. So we don't have quite the leaf color, but we are definitely into our cooler morning weather. But it will warm up into the 80 ups or so by the afternoon. So we got all those Canadian snowbirds coming down for that reason. So very good. Very good.
Yeah, I was gonna say here it's definitely getting chilly. So
Yeah, right.
quite a difference.
Cool. Good. Let's see. And Marta, what do you like to do for research?
So I like star clusters. So these are collections of stars, they're gravitationally bound together, and I'm very interested in how they interact with galaxies, and I look at it from a theory perspective. So using computers, numerical simulations, and trying to put everything that we understand about them in these simulations and see what comes out.
Very cool.
So definitely using the theory.
Nice. Beautiful. And Bill, what do you like to do for research?
A long time ago, I decided that globular clusters were the thing for me, star clusters generally, and old halos in galaxies. But
Mhm.
I was just fascinated with globular clusters at an early stage. Such beautiful things to look at, and they're classic. They appear in any astronomy textbook ever. And the strange and fascinating thing about them in the literature is that somehow they're always old and they're always new. We just keep on finding more
Beautiful.
things about them and more ways they fit into other areas of astronomy. So it's
Indeed.
just an endless frontier.
That it
Yeah.
is. That it is. Very cool. And that is going to bring us to this very awesome APJ article. It is open access. It's the open access era, people. You can go grab a copy for free. Go get one. Pearls, globular clusters and ultra-compact dwarfs in the El Gordo galaxies at Z equal 0.87. And Bill and Marta, take us away.
So the very first word in the title, pearls, that refers to the Pearls imaging team,
Uh-huh.
which has been accumulating JWST imaging in the spectra for since JWST was launched pretty much. The PI of the Pearls team is Roger Windhorst in
Ah,
Arizona.
yes.
He's down there in alphabetical order and terrific team leader. Marta and I did the primary work on this particular study, but the other names are members of the Pearl team. That's not the whole team, but Anton Kokomor at STSCI
Oh,
has done a lot of the essential imaging processing that
cool.
we needed in order to work on the imaging. There's students on the list, Jessica
Excellent.
Berkheimer, Tyler Henricks, and Rachel Honor. They're our graduate students.
Very cool.
Wait, I think Rachel is not, she's a senior undergrad. I hope I'm not short selling her here. But anyway, Tim Carlton, also a young colleague with Roger. And the other names are as people on the Pearls team who have already participated in quite a lot of the Pearl's series of papers. So any paper that starts with that word, Pearl's, the name of the team, there's something drawing on the Pearl's raw data. And in this case, their imaging of the El Gordo cluster of galaxies at the redshift of 0.87 is the one that we were attacking here. We found, and Marta will talk more about this as well, but we found that the imaging that these teams, Pearls and the other teams, are concentrating on, which is imaging of lensing clusters, very massive clusters of galaxies that have intermediate redshifts and that were designed to take advantage of gravitational lensing to look at the really remote universe. And so that's all been spectacularly successful.
Yep.
But one thing that's a total side benefit that is great for us is that these lensing clusters are usually have very massive galaxies at their centers. That's part of why the gravitational lensing effect works. And in those very massive galaxies, there are huge populations of star clusters and ultracompact dwarfs. And they're just there. They're just a feature of the imaging that comes automatically. And so we've started a program to work with those and just take advantage of the fact that all this wonderful data is coming in that's wide open to work on in any number of different ways.
Very cool. Very cool.
So then, well, there are two other surveys mentioned, Canucks and Uncover, which have similar kinds of goals.
Yep, near-time imaging surveys. Yep. Yes.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then the lead sentence in the next paragraph, the image that was what I just said in slightly different language, but the new JWST imaging era for distant globular clusters and ultracompact dwarfs, UCDs, has just begun. And sure enough, it has just begun. And we were fortunate enough to be able to take advantage of a variety of these. And we're just getting started. This is the most remote target that we've yet looked at.
Gordo.
And in fact, yes, there it is. And in fact, the way we started, Martha, take that away on Abel 2744, would you?
Yeah, sorry for the distraction. So this all started because we realized that James Webb was actually really good at looking at these red point-like sources in these lensing clusters. Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, we're good.
Yeah, it is virus season, so my voice kind of comes and goes. But we realized that James Webb was actually really good at seeing these point-like sources. We started exploring Abell 2744, which is a galaxy cluster located at redshift 0.3 that was published in 2 papers previous to the one that we're presenting today. And by looking at doing the photometric analysis of this cluster, we found a sample of the order of 10,000 objects. Bill, you can correct me here, but that's a fantastical number for starting to look at the statistics of these globular clusters kind of in these galaxy clusters. So we've been looking at the distribution of their luminosities, the distribution of their colors, the distribution of these globular clusters within the lensing cluster, and how can we use them to trace where the mass is located within the cluster. And that has been spectacular.
Cool.
That's been very successful. So as more data has been coming for the other lensing clusters, we decided to go a bit crazy and just try and do the most extreme case that is out there, which is El Gordo.
Okay.
El Gordo is this fantastic lensing cluster at redshift 0.87. It's very massive. It has a mass of 2 times 10 to the 15. So the lensing power of this cluster is really strong. So that's why it's very interesting for a point of view, like if you're interested in the high redshift universe. But we're interested in what's happening in the cluster itself. And Bill will mention later that the data is not as deep as we would like, but it's already good enough for this sort of preliminary study of what the star clusters in this galaxy cluster look like.
I'm with you. Good.
Mhm.
So I guess the obvious question is, all right, the imaging of these lensing clusters at redshifts of a few tenths is deep enough to allow you to see these populations of point sources, which are the
Yeah.
GCs and UCDs. But
Hmm.
so what? And what's the underlying goal here? And I think that probably the way to put it is that the physically important thing in the problem is not the redshift as such, but it's what goes with the redshift, which is look back time.
Right.
And we're seeing these systems as they were some gigayears in the past, and that by looking at a series of targets over a range of redshifts or
Yes.
look back times,
Yes.
we can actually start looking at the evolution, if you will,
Uh-huh.
of globular cluster populations with time.
Cool.
Um, and instead of relying completely on numerical simulations and modeling and theoretical computations, we can actually see this happening.
Nice.
Yeah.
Um,
So
and another way to put it is, well, okay, we can the simulations and the models can run at high enough detail now that they can actually predict the collective evolution of a population of star clusters all the way from their beginning down to the present time.
Yep.
But then what? When do we ever step in and compare reality with the models? And so far, all we've been able to do is take the present day universe. In other words,
Right.
we had to sort of wait for 12 or 13 gig years to finally do a check on the models. But all of a sudden, we've got more space opening up to do those tests, and when we can do these comparisons with the models with real data now over a long range of look back times.
Yes. Very
And
yeah,
cool.
that's really exciting, I think.
yeah. And what's really exciting about El Gordo is that its redshift of being at redshift 0.87 means that it's located at halfway through the lifetime of the universe.
Uh-huh.
So with these series of targets, we are providing the observational counterpart to all the theoretical predictions from nowadays to 7 gigayears ago. And
Nice.
that's wonderful because it complements everything that is being done from Redshift 1 kind of onward. And I think it's just the observational evidence that's coming from all of these studies is it's wonderful to compare all the theoretical predictions we have.
Right. Right. That's
Right.
a great combination between the object.
And yeah, and the combination's only going to get better because these same lensing clusters have allowed um, have allowed us to see candidate clusters in the process of formation at redshifts of
Uh-huh.
2 to 5 to even higher than that. In other words, we're seeing the very most massive, very brightest globular clusters just at a very early stage of their evolution. But that's done with the help of the gravitational lensing
Hmm.
effect, the magnification effect,
Yes.
um, and so that's fine. I mean, and what we're doing is looking at the later stages where you can look at entire populations of clusters when they were already several gigayears old.
Uh-huh.
And by combining those two approaches, I think eventually we'll be able to put together, we'll be able to observationally see the evolution of across the whole timeline.
Nice. Very good. Very good.
And it's not as if one approach is better than the other; they're completely
Yeah.
complementary.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Should we go to figure one?
Yeah.
Let's take a look
Let's
at
go
El
to figure
Gordo.
one.
Let's zoom this out a little bit so we can see the entire bit of El Gordo. Okay.
So it's actually two subclusters, lower left and upper right,
Mhm.
which eventually will merge into a single, more concentrated system. But um, within each of those two subclusters, you've got giant galaxies, brightest cluster galaxies of BCGs. And the
Uh-huh.
contour lines,
Yes.
Marta, do you want to describe more about the
Yeah. So
contour lines there? Because
Mhm.
what the figure is showing is a view of El Gordo, as we're seeing it with James Webb. The background is one of the images from, it's one of the mosaics from the Pearls team, is showing the short wavelength channel filter
Okay.
F200.
Mhm.
And you can see that there are galaxies located kind of everywhere, but the brightest
Yep.
cluster galaxies that like these very massive galaxies that Bill is referring to are exactly, yeah, where do you have your cursor? Here in the top right and in the bottom left.
Yep.
So that corresponds to the gray color bar. We then have the contours. The contours with different lines that go from black to orange are showing the structure in the prediction of where the mass is located in these galaxy clusters. This was done by a complementary team within the Pearls collaboration.
Okay.
And it is telling us that the mass in this galaxy cluster is not it's not spherical. It actually has this elongated shape that goes from the bottom left to the top right, and
Uh-huh.
it has these two kind of subclusters that are interacting at the moment and that will eventually merge as kind of as time passes for this galaxy cluster. And then
Mhm.
we have, on top of all of that, we have all of the colored dots that are kind of scattered around. Those are the sample of about 1,000 objects that we have identified in this article, and they're
Okay.
color coded by their magnitude. And you can see that the location of the objects is sort of correlated with the structure in the mass. Exactly. So
Yes.
here in the top right, we've got
Yes.
two BCGs, one of the centers of the mass, and a large concentration of point-like sources because
Cool.
globular clusters tend to be scattered around the BCGs. And then at the bottom left, we have another center of objects of mass of galaxies. So
Very
this is already visually showing that the location of globular clusters, the galaxies, and the mass seem to be correlated with the structure of the galaxy cluster, which is
yes.
really interesting
Yes. Yes.
and something that we're exploring in the other target galaxies as well.
Very good. Cool. Beautiful. Beautiful. I'm probably going to take that one for the poster image. Okay.
So yeah, I think that sort of brings us to Bill and how do we actually find the point?
So that's moving further down.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Let's
we
see.
talk about the steps in the photometry there. The measurement process is that, okay, the things we're after, which are the star clusters and the UCDs, are at these distances, they're going to be just point sources. They're
Yes.
going to be indistinguishable from stellar things.
Hmm.
Um, and that's actually quite useful because
Yeah.
anything that is any object that's slightly extended and is not star-like is not something that we're after. In fact,
Okay.
we can put it into the contamination category instead of the signal category.
Okay.
And so when we do the photometry, we're using the DAO code and its various modules
Okay.
to do this, to find objects down to a certain uniform level. Um, and then, yeah, Peter Stetson, the original
Uh-huh.
inventor of the code, I mean, it's been around for a long time and still a very, very nice
Beautiful. Yes.
code to work with.
Hmm.
Um, Lots of the features that we want to be able to use. So we define a point spread function from the small number of reasonably bright isolated stars that are in the image, and we then fit that point spread function to everything that we detected in the image.
Yep.
And then we have a couple of parameters that measure the goodness of fit. I mean, does it actually match the point spread function accurately, which means it's
There.
star-like and we want to keep it. If it doesn't match, then it's not star-like and we can remove it.
Okay.
Um, and in fact, as Marta said, actually most of what's in the image is not star-like. They're really faint background galaxies
Galaxies.
or
Yeah.
small things that are in the El Gordo cluster itself. And so we can toss those out and we can really do a job of reducing the contamination a huge amount. So I think that's in the next
Cool.
figure or two.
Okay. Let's take a look at
Um,
figure two.
this is, yeah, the one on the left, figure two, is just a plot of one of those criteria that are the sharpness criterion, it's called. And it's, as I said, it's just a measure of how well the profile of the object matches the stellar point spread function.
Yes.
And so two of the filters are shown there, the F-150 and the F-200 filter, and the things within those dashed lines are the ones that we keep.
Okay.
And you can put in artificial stars to test the whole process. Those are the things in red.
Perfect. Okay.
Anything else outside those dashed lines, then we can get rid of and sharpen up our sample a good deal. And
Cool.
then I think figure 3 shows the results of that.
Figure 2.
That's over on the right. Yeah.
Yeah, we're
So
good.
the upper part of figure 3, figure 3A,
Uh-huh.
that shows how all the detected objects are distributed across the field. Um, the two there are some little gaps in there, circles where that are washed out by bright stars, and we just mask those out.
Okay.
Uh,
Yes.
and the circle at lower left and the box at upper right are the regions that actually enclose the BCGs, the target galaxies.
Okay.
Those are the spatial regions that we're most interested in.
Mhm.
So after we've gotten rid of anything that's not star-like, anything that's not a point source,
Yes.
we're left with the lower part of the graph.
Cool.
And now you can see what we're after is really starting to stand out. You see all those point sources are populating the region close to the BCG galaxies.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, and
Yeah.
the rest of everything else in the field is just kind of background. So that's fine.
Right.
But it's quite a signal that we've actually found something that we're after.
Yes.
Yeah. It's
Uh,
quite striking because even if you remove those shapes, you could tell there is substructure here and it's kind of along the structure of the galaxy cluster. So that's really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
even if you didn't know where the galaxies were, this graph would tell you where they are.
Yeah.
Right. And you can correlate this with figure 1. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. I'm with you.
Yeah.
I'm good. And we got what we got about 1,000 objects in those in these clusters. Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm good. I'm with you. Mhm.
Oh, the little equation
Ah, yes.
that's on the left. Yes. As you noticed, Frank, there's one equation in the paper. This is the detection probability as a function of magnitude and spatial location. We just model it with a nice simple um, logistic regression
Yeah.
curve. Um, the probability of finding an object is higher if it's brighter, and it's also higher if it's sitting in a region away from the central galaxy light. But you can model both things by using artificial stars to track
Uh-huh.
all of that. And
Mm-hmm.
so that's just a simple way to parameterize what the completeness of detection is.
Mm-hmm. I'll
So,
throw a shout out if you want more. You can check out Bill and Josh's 2024 article.
oh yes, if you have the patience to look at
Oh, yeah, we had.
a monumental paper on that
Very
subject,
good.
it tells you everything you could possibly want to know about photometric
I love
completeness.
papers like that.
Um,
Monumentals.
and if you want to try the neural network code that's in there, please by all means do.
Mm, there it is.
Um,
Awesome. Okay, so that's our probabilities. We have
Yeah.
isolated, we've cleaned up, and now we've got our sample. And let's see where we go. Results.
so yeah, the two panels of the next figure kind of parallel the XY plots that we're looking at previously. The panel on the left shows where all the detected objects are in
Okay.
the color magnitude diagram.
Mm-hmm.
F150 magnitude versus 150 minus 200 color index.
I'm with you.
And then the right-hand panel shows
Cool.
all the point sources
Mhm.
after we've gotten rid of things that are not point sources.
Okay, refraction.
And they're color coded by these probability of recovery that Bill was talking about. I mean, so you can see that the very brightest objects, the ones that are top, those we trust, those we know their point sources, they are globular clusters. As we go towards the bottom, it's become a bit more dubious. But that's why we put so much emphasis in trying to understand, is this a globular cluster or not?
Mm-hmm.
Because it then impacts our results.
Mm-hmm. Sure. Yes. Mm-hmm. Okay. Cool. Very good. That's your CMD. Okay. And then we're going to do some CMDs of the cold sample. Yes, here we go, figure 5.
These are actually 4 different filters here, the F090, F115, F150, and F200.
Yes.
Those are the NearCam short wavelength channel broadband filters that are the
Mm,
most useful here. But the filter pair with the highest signal to noise, the one that goes to the deepest, is F150 and F200.
mhm,
So that gives
mm,
the best looking color magnitude distribution by a little margin.
mhm.
Um, the others, we just don't have high enough signal yet. In principle, we'd like to be able to start measuring metallicities, sort of heavy element abundances of the
Yes,
clusters in
yes, yes,
UCDs
yes. Yeah.
by way of the color indices because
Okay. Mhm.
they get redder as they get more metal rich.
Yes,
Um,
metal's cool.
but um, but we're not there yet for this target. We of course, it's a familiar complaint, but we need deeper exposures and we need higher signal to be
Uh-huh.
able to start
Well,
doing
we'll
that.
come back to that point. We'll come back to that point.
Yeah.
What are the red horizontal lines?
That's the completeness fraction of
Mm,
50%, I think it
yeah,
is. That's
Yes.
yeah,
basically where we
Yes.
give up.
Yes.
Yeah, we don't pay attention to things fainter than that level.
Okay.
no.
All right. Very good. Good. Okay, I am with you. Bang. Go back to full. There we go. Let's see. Slide down. Okay, and then we got some
So
these of those.
maybe let's look at this in the reverse order. The
Okay. Okay.
panel on the right are the point sources within those boxed regions around the major galaxies, the BCG region.
Okay. Okay.
And then the panel on the left
Uh-huh.
is all the point sources from everywhere else in the image.
Yes.
So
Background.
that area, the background area is about 10 times larger than the BCG region. It's just, so of course there are more objects in the background in total.
Oh, sure.
But if you just randomly take about 1 out of 10 objects out of that, you get what's in the middle panel.
Mhm.
And so that should represent the population of background objects that we're seeing in the BCG region.
Okay. Yes, right.
And so there's a big statistical excess
Mhm.
just around the BCGs. If it wasn't already visually obvious, then this is a slightly more quantitative test of that.
Yes.
But,
Yes.
so yeah. So
Okay. I
so we are detecting a population that's it stands up above the background population quite nicely.
Yeah.
So
beautiful. Beautiful. Okay. Very good. Okay, so we got our sample, we got it cleaned up. We do a comparison with A27444.
yeah. Now this is Marta can talk more about the details of this, but the very last line on that page, the K correction line, if you
Oh,
want
yeah.
to,
Yeah,
yeah,
so
we ran
up,
into a technical issue here that we had to
Sure.
solve
Mm-hmm.
before we started doing comparisons with other systems at other redshifts.
Mm-hmm.
yeah, so up until here, or like this type of analysis for any galaxy cluster is fine in itself. You look at an object, you detect sources, you look at the properties of those sources. The problem comes when you want to compare the properties of these sources for targets that are at different redshifts, because as your object is located at different redshifts, the spectral energy distribution gets redshifted. So by looking at a single filter, you're actually looking at photons that have been emitted in different regions of your spectrum.
Yes.
So there are corrections that can be applied to the magnitudes to kind of correct for this redshifting effect, and they're named in the community as K corrections or photometric corrections. They're well known in the field of galaxies, but had never been done before for star clusters.
Ooh.
So
Okay.
we ran into this issue when we were working for Abel 2744. So we took a reroute in our work and spent I don't know how long, about 6 months or so, trying to understand
Good.
the theoretical background for where K corrections come from and how could they be calculated for stellar populations that have a single stellar population, like globular clusters.
Yes.
So we wrote a companion paper that I led, but it was basically a collaboration with Bill, kind of step by step. But the fun thing is that we also wrote this online tool, which we call Rescuer, because it came to our rescue, where given a library of spectral energy distributions that represent single stellar populations of a given age and a given metallicity, you can determine what is the filter that you're starting with, the filter that you're ending at. You can determine the age, the metallicity, and the redshift of your object. And it basically spits out by how much you should change your photometry, just to account about for whether your source is actually brighter or dimmer in the filter that you're looking at.
Cool.
And this was kind of a side project, at least when we're looking at Abel 2744, but it's proven to be kind of quite critical now that we have sufficient targets that we can start making comparisons. Because when we see something bright at the distance of El Gordo, we need to account for the fact that is it bright because is it intrinsically bright, or because we're looking at the region of the spectra where the peak of the acidity happens to be.
Yes.
So we need to account for all of those changes when we do the comparison that is shown in the next figure.
Okay.
That was a side project, all right, but it was absolutely essential.
Oh yeah.
And I thought, and I kind of, when we got into this, I realized that, well, we can't just borrow K corrections from
Galaxies
or supernovae, things that are cosmologically distant, because they have very different spectra from star clusters. And actually, in a way, star clusters are simpler because they are just a single stellar population, or to a pretty good approximation. And so we had to reinvent the whole process of calculating K corrections for those. And thought, well, before we ever started this, we would have thought, well, who would be interested in K corrections for star clusters? All we're doing is working in the local universe.
Well,
where the K corrections are zero. But all of a sudden we have to worry about them.
Right.
And so, if we're comparing targets at two very different redshifts, we have to be able to put them into a common a graph with common scales, and that was that.
Okay, let's get some numbers on that. There we go. Bang. Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there was our first, in figure 7, there was our first intercomparison of objects at two different redshifts.
K corrected.
Yeah, all properly K corrected.
Good.
And as Marta said, it depends on which filter you're working in. It depends on the cluster metallicity and age. And we are looking at things at different ages in those two panels. El Gordo is more distant, and therefore it's younger. Abel 2744, which we had done a couple of years ago. Now it's nearby, it's more nearby, and so we were able to get deeper in absolute magnitude, in true luminosity. So the numbers of clusters there are much larger.
Yep.
And they define a tighter sequence too. But that's fine. It's just a matter of signal to noise, which was different. But then there's El Gordo on the left, and there it is. The globular cluster sequence is standing higher because we're seeing those things when they're younger and brighter.
Yes.
As time goes on, they get fainter just because of stellar evolution. You're progressively losing your bright high mass stars. And they're also getting less luminous because they're losing mass. They're dynamically losing mass as time goes on.
Right. Okay.
As they orbit around in the tidal field of their galaxies. And so, yeah, there's the very first kind of glimpse at different redshifts of cluster evolution actually happening.
Beautiful.
And we can move on from there to add other targets now and kind of fill in the gaps and get a longer sequence.
Right. That's very nice.
Yeah, we should say a little bit about those blue and red vertical
Yeah, the two
lines.
metallicities.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
I was
So
missing those.
more metal poor clusters are bluer in color. So the blue lines on the left, more metal rich ones are redder, and that's the red line on the right.
Yes.
And if we've done our photometry right,
Okay.
and if there aren't any nasty systematic effects, and if we've done the K corrections right,
Right.
then those two lines ought to bracket the actual observed sequence,
Okay.
which thank
Exciting.
goodness they pretty closely do.
Mm.
Yeah, especially here. Marta, you want to say anything on that?
And I was just laughing.
Okay. You just agree. Yes. All good. That is
Um,
awesome. That's
but
awesome.
you can see the potential benefit of getting longer exposures.
Yes.
The actual raw data for El Gordo, the exposures are not unusually long. They're reasonably long, but they're not to the depth of Abel 2744 or some of the other Pearl's targets, the other lensing clusters. And so there is potential to
I smell
get deeper
follow-up.
in luminosity
Yes,
too.
I smell follow-up. But now you've got a justification for following up.
Yeah, we've got the beginnings of it. So yeah,
Good. Beautiful. All right. Let's see. We got figure 7. And I think that was it.
that's the last figure.
This one, we get into some discussion, and then we go into summary and future, which we're going to hold on to for a second. So very good. Okay. Very good. All right. Bill, Marta, I want to thank you so much for walking us through your very awesome article on GCs and UCDs in El Gordo. Very nice. Thank you.
Well, as usual, it's a pleasure to talk about what we're working on. So
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. There's many
yeah.
reasons to do these. Okay. Well, you hinted at it there several times. And I think from both a theoretical perspective and an observational perspective, where do you think we go given the published article? This is the first, it's certainly not the final article on GCs and UCDs, massive cluster. So where do we go from here?
Marta?
Well, so we've already mentioned we started with Abel 2744. We've done El Gordo, we've done Max 0417, we've done another lensing cluster, RxJ 2129.
Yeah.
Those are the published ones. We have 4 to 5 more in the works.
Cool.
We're basically working with the imaging teams that have been taking the data for lensing clusters in James Webb to analyze their data to look at 4 globular clusters in these lensing clusters,
Nice.
hoping to build this kind of holistic view of star cluster formation and evolution in galaxy clusters from redshift 0 to redshift 1.
Nice.
So I think overall, we're looking, Bill might correct me because the numbers keep on getting updated, but like 20 galaxy clusters in the next year or so.
Yeah. Well,
Then we might have data. So we're slowly filling up this gap, which is incredible. We're looking at luminosity distributions, color distributions. We're looking at, we're trying to do SED fitting for some of these lensing clusters. So trying to extract the masses, the ages, the metallicities of these star clusters,
Yes.
which can tell us more about the assembly history of the galaxy cluster. We're also looking at the spatial distribution of the star clusters within the lensing cluster.
Yeah.
So we can learn about the mass distribution, we can
Mhm.
learn about the galaxy distribution, we can provide independent constraints to build up the convergence maps, so the maps of predicted mass maps from these lensing clusters. So there's a lot of works, there's a lot of things that are kind of in the works, and it's really exciting actually. This kind of started 2 years ago and it's going forward.
Awesome.
yeah. I just wanted to add a word to. I mean, Martha's being kind of too modest in a way about that spatial correlation goal because um, there 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 are theoretical reasons to expect that the spatial distribution of globular clusters in a big system like this should be reacting to the whole dark matter potential,
Right.
particularly the metal poor ones that are most extended. And so
Right.
um, we can do this now with the lensing clusters. And the neat thing is that that's an experiment that you cannot do in the local universe
Right.
because you don't have the lensing maps
Right.
for the targets.
No.
But we can do it at these intermediate redshifts when you're looking at a big cluster of galaxies with a big gravitational field and where the lensing signal is strong and everything is sort of the way you want it. And so that I think has a lot of potential.
Yeah.
Gas now. Very good.
So we're trying to kind of concentrate all of that effort on the people, like this is not just ourselves, the people in these imaging teams who are also working on looking at these globular clusters. We're trying to organize ourselves into something we're calling Rescue, which is redshifted star cluster exploration, and kind of
Nice.
coincides with the name of our cape correction code.
Good.
Um,
Very good.
so
Very good.
these kind of programs slash collaboration is kind of starting, and hopefully we can concentrate all our efforts and kind of do this together as a community.
Very cool. It's going to be really exciting to see this develop over the next couple of years, and that intersection between theory and observation is usually fruitful, and I'm willing to bet
Yeah,
it.
Yeah.
yeah.
So,
So this is
Absolutely.
all the observational data, and from the theoretical perspective, there's almost no constraints of star clusters in galaxy clusters, just because it's so difficult to model these huge scales at the same time.
right.
So there's a lot of things that can be done
Very cool.
in the next years. Yeah.
Well, maybe we'll be back for another one here in a year or two. So yeah, I look forward to it. It'll be very nice. Bill and Marta, I want to thank you so much for walking us through your very awesome article. Very
Thank
nice.
you.
Yeah, sure. And that will do, everyone. And I hope this made your astronomy day just a little bit better. And we will see you on the next one. Bye-bye.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Bye, everyone.